Kyle, what's up?
Oh, you know.
So, for those of you joining who don't know what I'm doing, I thought it would be a fun idea to interview some arts industry professionals. And Kyle and I work together at the Grand Rapids Symphony. We've worked together for how many years now? 6 years, I think. And Kyle is the production stage manager. But anyway, Kyle, why don't you just start us off? Tell us about how you got into what you're doing now and just your career background.
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, so I think I knew uh, for a long time that I wanted to get into live events, and so I went to Ferris State University um, and got a degree in music industry management and special event planning. And while I was at school, I actually interned here with the symphony, um, the volunteer coordinator at the time, and since my internship, I would come after my internship, I would come back and volunteer for events. And eventually, this position opened up, and I applied, and here I am. Um,
How did you, what about events interested you?
yeah, I think it's concerts and live music specifically that interested me. And at a certain point, I realized that that could be a career, and I think that really appealed to me because I didn't want to wind up working like a quote unquote normal job. I wanted to go for it, you know. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off track. What was your question?
I think you answered it, how you knew you wanted to work in specifically events, because that's what you said your initial interest was.
Yeah, I think originally I thought I would be a rock star, but that
Oh,
didn't pan out. So
yeah.
I
So,
feel
and
discouraged.
you in your bio, you said you got your first guitar when you were 6 years old?
That's Yep, that's correct. My grandparents got me a guitar for Christmas when I was 6 years old, and I started taking lessons. Um, and I think it's always been a fascination for me. I can remember being really young and watching MTV and telling my mom, "Oh, people playing guitar is so cool. I want a guitar." And so I started off with a little tiny acoustic guitar, like everyone probably does. It was not what I pictured. I wanted like electric guitar, big loud amplifier, and I got there eventually. Uh,
Hmm.
but
What was the first song you learned?
I love peanut butter, of course.
Well, how does that go? I don't know how that goes.
You pick any note, and it's more to just teach you like rhythms and note values. But you pick a note, any note, and you pick it while you're saying "I love peanut butter."
Nice. I do a similar thing, um, peanut butter sandwich with the violin.
Yep, that sounds pretty close.
Yep. So it's four eighth notes and then two quarter notes.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Um, and were you taking from a private teacher at first, or were you just kind of doing your own thing?
Yeah, I started taking from a private teacher. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was some group lessons that he ran out of his basement. And that didn't last for very long, and I started taking lessons from, and you can still take lessons from this person now, Jim Dow at RIT Music. I believe he's still teaching at the Plainfield location. I took lessons from Jim probably from the time I was about 7 or 8 years old until I was 17 or 18.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Very cool. So then they were group lessons.
At first, my lessons with Jim were private lessons.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I remember being very annoying. Almost every week, I would come in with a CD, and I would beg him to show me like this Aerosmith song or this weird, obscure cut from whatever CD I had stolen from my dad's collection that week.
Okay.
And he would sit down and try and pick it out by ear. Sometimes I would get lucky and he knew the song.
Hmm. Do you remember like a moment in your guitar lessons or just when you were learning before you went to college, like one of the most memorable moments of you playing and just feeling like you really nailed it or you were really accomplished?
I I think this was maybe the summer after sixth grade. I went to a rock and roll day camp in Ann Arbor called Day Jams.
Uh-huh.
And basically, it was a camp that taught kids how to be in a band, which was amazing. Like, it was everything I ever wanted. I was like, oh, I've always wanted to be in a band, and I can't, I still have the CD somewhere because at the end of the week or a couple weeks, your band would perform in a big showcase and they recorded everybody's set. I mean, it's awful. I've listened to it a couple times. Like, I always cringe a little bit. But I do remember being up there and performing and like getting into it and like how good it felt to like play, just some crappy song that we wrote in a week, a bunch of 12 or 13-year-olds. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, I have to keep doing this.
Hmm.
And actually, I went back to that camp one more time, but I wouldn't form an actual band until college. So I started college.
Yeah. Um, and that's a good point. Getting into that, how many different bands have you been in?
Well, not counting the rock and roll day camp bands, just three. I've filled in for a couple other bands over the years, but just a gig here or there. But
Yeah. So would you call your genre typically rock or something else?
yeah, this last one was predominantly rock, but I don't know. You ask any musician what kind of music they play, they'll give you something like, "Well, I don't want to put a label on it," but and I'm trying not to give you that
Okay. Okay. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong, your last band, Hurry Home, is that the name of it?
Yep.
And you just had a final concert?
We were supposed to have a final concert, but then this little thing called coronavirus happened,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was supposed to be the weekend that the stay-at-home order in Michigan started. It was
Oh, bummer.
yeah, bummer. I know, but you never know. We might have that farewell show sometime. Just
Okay.
not anytime soon.
Yeah. Do you have a funny memory that you could share from one of your bands or one of your live performances?
Um, okay. This this might be one of my favorite things that ever happened to us while we were playing the show. It was we were opening for let's get this right. I think we were opening for Pop Evil at the Intersection. Sold out backroom show. One of the biggest shows that we played in that band. And we played our opener, which we played the same song to open our set for like just about every show. And it's really tight, and I felt like we really nailed it that time. And we stopped playing, and the crowd was mostly quiet, except for there were like a couple very strong boos from one person. And for some reason, we all thought it was so hilarious to like. I've never been booed before, but to just
Yeah.
have one lone boo, like we started cracking up on stage, and like I don't know, we talked
Wow.
about it for like
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been booed before, but one time it happened. I quite enjoyed it.
Wow. Yeah, I have not experienced that. That's very unique. Okay, now I wanted to ask you about fishing. When did you get into fishing? And can you tell us the biggest fish you've caught?
Um, yeah, so I got into fishing even earlier than I got into playing guitar.
Oh,
There's all
wow.
adorable pictures of me fishing with the Mickey Mouse shaped bobber when I was like 3 or 4 years old in a marina somewhere. Um, but yeah, my grandparents um, on both sides um, would take me and my brother and my sister fishing all the time. And every weekend in the summer, we would be somewhere fishing. And I think I kind of trailed off once I started college and um, picked it back up again, like in my mid 20s. Felt like, "Oh, I missed out on all these years of fishing. Now I have to make up for it." So,
Biggest fish?
biggest fish that I've ever caught. Um, Actually, it might be the one that you used in my picture for this. That was a pretty big one. I don't know. My little brother tends to show everyone up when you go fishing with him. And last summer, he managed to land like a 30 or 40 pound flathead catfish on one of our fishing excursions.
That is huge.
I didn't catch it, but I like to take partial credit for it.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have a favorite kind of fish?
I like to fish for just about anything and everything, but some of the most fun species that I go after are probably smallmouth, and I do like to go after catfish. Some people think it's boring, but it's an art.
Okay. How is it an art? Why is it an art?
Oh, how and why? I mean, you know, fishing is about making the right decisions and knowing what decisions to make, what kind of bait to use, where to go, what, time to go out. You gotta know some knots. Um, you know, and it can take a very long time to get good at it. It's not just as easy as like, throwing a line out there and reeling in like a bluegill or something. And that's a certain kind of fishing that people enjoy. And I wouldn't knock it, but um,
Hmm.
you know, not exactly the same as like wading a creek and fishing for 5 hours to try and catch like one brown trout or something intense like that.
Yeah. What about I've seen on TV before the people who catch catfish with their hands.
Noodling.
So that's a different technique?
Yeah, so I've never done it, and um, I'm I'm actually pretty positive that fishing with your hands like that is not allowed in Michigan. I don't know
Huh.
why, but also, yeah, you just kind of wade around and like find holes in the riverbank and just stick your hand in and hope there's a catfish in there and not like a snapping turtle or
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
yeah.
Oh
No,
man.
I'll let someone else stick their hand in a hole that they can't see.
Yeah. Do you ever listen to music while you fish?
Not not usually. Sometimes if I'm like, it is just kind of nice to be out in nature by yourself and disconnect. So I don't usually have music on or anything. I like to just kind of take it in. But occasionally, if I'm just like at a park somewhere, I might put a podcast on.
Hmm. Um, and everyone who's watching, remember that you can ask Kyle questions. If you would like to ask Kyle a question, definitely put it below. But
Except
my
for
next
and Mike, no questions from
my next question for you is, do you have a favorite project that you have worked on before, specifically related to music?
me. Yeah, I think this most current band I've enjoyed working on the most. I think I have a lot of fond memories from when I was starting out. But I think um, this group was special because it was less of competition or tug of war. We were just people who had been friends and played in bands with each other for a long time, getting together to just kind of do it for fun. And
Mhm.
I think that made me enjoy it a lot more than the things before where there's drama, someone you know did this or said that. Um, yeah, it was just a really good environment to work in. It's nice to be
Yeah.
around your friends that much.
Yeah. And then with the symphony, is there something over the years that you've worked at the symphony that you've learned that you think is just something most people wouldn't know about?
Something most people wouldn't know about. Well, it's interesting because I didn't really come from a classical music background, as you are probably picking up from this interview. Um, so it was quite the learning experience. I pretty much just jumped in and had to learn as I go. And yeah, there were things that like I never even, you know, considered before, like lights in your eyes while you're on stage. My experience prior to this was that yes, there are lights in your eyes. I started, I was like, oh, that's a problem now. I see, and it's
Kristen says, careful how you answer that.
I'm not calling anyone out. And you know the things about how hot or cold it is on stage, that never entered my brain because I'm like, oh, it's always hot on stage. You're always sweating by the time you come off stage. Apparently, um, those aren't the kind of working conditions that most musicians
Julie.
approach classical world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
because I mean, classical instruments in a symphony, they can be very temperamental with the changes in temperature, changes in humidity,
yeah, and that's
and
the primary reason. It's not just a comfort thing. But
yeah, and I mean, I came from a classical background, but I'm a violinist, and I also, I didn't know how much those kinds of things affected woodwind players and reed instruments as much. So I think I learned a lot about that too.
yeah, that was a big surprise to me. I don't know what else.
I will never forget one of the first things you and I did together after I had completed my internship and I was hired on was that harpsichord and just transporting that thing to Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp and how I got a huge bruise because we were transporting it and then the lid just slammed down on my finger
Oh no,
and
yeah,
I had a black fingernail for like almost 2 months.
yeah.
And that
It's
was like one of my first things that I did after I was hired full time with you. It was just like, oh my gosh.
it's surprisingly easy to become injured in the line of duty in this job. Um, yeah, one thing I didn't anticipate was moving a lot of big instruments around. Harpsichords can be a pain because a lot of the times you have to pull them out of somebody's living room or dining room or, God forbid, like a basement in a church somewhere, and there's not an elevator. It's always an adventure.
Yeah.
Um,
Or the other time when you and I were moving that organ in the middle of winter through a university.
oh yeah, yep, gotta love.
Let's take Julie's question. She asked, do you have any crazy stories about unexpected things that have happened at work?
Um, gosh, you're always surprised, or you're never not surprised by a
Yeah.
I think is a better way to say that. Gosh, you know, you would think you would think with all the crazy stuff that's happened, something would stick out. But it's like every year, something even crazier happens that just blows the doors off the last thing. Um, I don't know. I did get a big kick out of um, the Boys to Men concert that we did. I don't know if you recall that, but I do remember at one point dethorning roses and middle-aged women attempting to bribe me to get backstage to meet Boys to Men. Never, never in my life would have guessed that that would have happened. Um, gosh, I don't know.
I
You never
mean, Do you remember when at auditions one of the trumpet people sat on their trumpet and it bent in half?
No.
That I will never forget that moment.
How about the audition that was ruined because the venue decided that was the day they needed to use sulfuric acid to clean their kitchen?
Oh, I totally forgot that. That was insane.
All smelled like sulfur and rotten eggs, and we had to send everybody home.
Yeah,
That's
that was crazy.
that's the kind of phone call you get, and you just go, hmm, really?
Kristen, have you had to enter therapy after working with us?
Uh, it couldn't hurt, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
No, I actually have a lot of fun, and I think um, you know, never not being surprised has really helped with that because it is fun, to walk into something that can be new every day, or you know, to have a new experience doing something. You've done 1,000 concerts, but there's always something else. There's always something new.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. That's something I really like about working at the symphony because no day is ever the same.
Yeah, it really isn't. And I think that's kind of what's special about it, and what's really special about live music in general. That it's always a unique experience. And I've
Hmm.
to see a side of the music business that I certainly would have never experienced if I had just kind of stayed in my lane. And it's really opened my eyes a lot and given me more of an appreciation for fine arts, and um, just the real grueling hard work and dedication that it takes to be a symphony musician.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty competitive and a lot of detailed stuff that goes into classical music. What about I'm trying like you just set up so many things and you drive the symphony truck everywhere. Do you have a symphony truck story? I bet you have so many.
And ask me that question.
I wasn't there one about someone stealing the registration or the sticker off the license?
Oh God, Carlos is here. Um, yeah,
What did he say?
somebody did steal our tags off the license plate one time. That surprised me. Um, there was the time that one of the other tenants where we parked the truck backed his trailer into the symphony truck and refused to admit that he backed his trailer into the symphony truck. Um, there was also the time that I drove from about um, Cleveland back to Grand Rapids in a crazy blizzard and passed about a million wrecks on the highway, and thought more than once that this was it, going off the road.
Yeah. Okay, so if you feel comfortable answering this question, it's from Carlos. He asked, "Was there ever an event with limited time to set up that you were surprised you were able to pull it off?"
I can only assume that he's thinking of something specifically. um, Gosh, there have been times where like I've pulled up right enough. There was one time where um, and I've only ever done this twice in 7 years, but I had not updated my calendar and we had moved to rehearsal time, and I literally showed up in the symphony truck like 45 minutes before the rehearsal was supposed to start, um, and it was somewhere other than DeVos Hall. And oh my God, I'm lucky that there were some kind souls there to help me out. But I was like, oh no, this is bad.
Yeah.
We've had some quick turnovers, um, like some mid rehearsal, like this isn't working, reset everything moments. Um, what is some of the most challenging setups to pull off are you know like some of the big Mahler orchestras. Sometimes fitting that many musicians on stage with a choir that's like, 130, 140 members strong. It's just mind-boggling. It's like trying to solve a giant jigsaw puzzle, not just like, will it fit if I do it like this, but will it work out if I, do it like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm trying to think, how do you juggle performing yourself or you used to? How in the past did you juggle performing with your band and being the stage manager at the symphony? Because your stage management stuff, it requires a lot of time, commitment in evenings and weekends and
Yeah, I mean, you really have to kind of carve your schedule out around, and there were plenty of times where I had to turn down great shows that I really wanted to play that I couldn't do because there was an important concert that I had to be there for. But a lot of the times we would wind up, and I don't enjoy playing this late, but there have been plenty of shows where I don't play until like midnight or later.
wow.
And when I knew it was that kind of show, like I would just go there after work. And there were a couple shows that I played still in my suit because I didn't have time to change.
Oh, wow. And do you still teach guitar lessons?
I haven't had a student in a while, and that was something that was kind of tough for me once I started here because my schedule for the symphony is kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard to find like a regular time for that, and it was also hard because maybe I get like Monday nights to myself, but I've found that taking time for yourself is also very important, especially with a job like this where 50 plus hour work weeks are typically the norm, and it's not crazy to have a 60 or a 70-hour work week or two back to back super long weeks like that. I think
Yeah.
my record is like 28 days without a day off or something like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, and it wears you down. So if you have a night off, sometimes it's better for you just to have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know though at one point you had quite a few students still.
Yeah. When I first got out of college, um, teaching guitar was kind of my main gig, and I think at one point I had like 35 to 40 students a week, which was crazy. I think I was doing,
That is a ton.
yeah, I think I wasn't doing a great job with like about a third of them, but um, it's tough. People come in and their commitment levels are all over the place and their skill levels are all over the place. So you know how this goes. You've got students of your own, but
Mm-hmm.
week after week teaching someone how to play the same thing over and over again can get a little tedious.
Mm-hmm. So Kyle, we didn't have any other audience questions come in, but I thought it would be good to ask you this because I do have quite a few high school and just graduated college students that follow me. And in the past, they've asked my guests what sort of advice you would give for someone who is looking for a career in the arts industry in music. Do you have any advice for someone?
Yeah, I think I found this out kind of the hard way. I mean, I've always been pretty active, but once you kind of have an idea of what it is that you want to do, you really have to go out there and try and do it. And I think a college degree isn't necessarily enough to guarantee that you're going to wind up where you want to be. Um, it's really important to get out there and go for the kind of experiences that you need to get yourself to wherever it is that you're trying to go. And it's a little daunting, but you really have to put yourself out there and get your hands dirty. That's advice that I.
Yeah, that's good advice. My advice previously was sort of similar to that, but just networking in general. Just when you meet other people in the industry, just asking them questions, like you were saying, putting yourself out there, trying new things, saying yes to things. I think those are also good.
Yeah, and that's very important. And I think our industry can be a little intimidating to people who are just starting out. But generally, people, want to help you succeed if they know that you have a real, um, interest in making it in this industry. And people are willing to help you out and mentor you. You
Yeah.
there, and you have to ask.
Hmm. Yeah, great advice. Kyle, this has been such a great talk. Do you have any last words about anything or where people can find your music?
Yeah, if they want to check out hurryhome.bandcamp.com, they can find some of my music from uh, Hurry Home. And if they really want to dig, well, maybe they can uncover my previous band.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much, Kyle. This has been really fun. I enjoyed our talk.
Yeah, thanks, Larissa.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too. Bye.
See ya.